Hi everyone, I'm just about to go live on the radio, so I thought I'd share it with everyone. Enjoy the broadcast.
This is Modern Mindset, the show where we discuss the psychology and emotion of finance and business. I'm your host, Adam Cox, and joining me today is Mark Stephen Pooler, who is a public speaker and someone that inspires people to get their message to thousands of people by becoming a speaker themselves. Welcome to the show.
Hi Adam, thank you so much for inviting me onto the show today.
You're more than welcome. Give us an idea of how you came to be in this very niche kind of area, because I think a lot of people, I read some statistics, the fear of public speaking is even greater than the fear of death, which kind of means that people would rather be speaking at the funeral, actually in the coffin, rather than speaking at the funeral. That's a terrifying statistic. Tell us how you became someone in this profession.
Well, I had a really big story, Adam, due to being bullied, severe drug addictions, and I actually collapsed and I died from drug use. And that was like a slow road to recovery for me. So during my personal development journey, I decided to start network marketing once I'd set up in business for myself. And I did really well with network marketing, but I realised I wasn't following my true passion. My true passion was watching the speakers on stage. So I left my network marketing business to follow my passion of being a professional speaker. I learned all of the skills. I'm on a great journey. And as you mentioned, it's such a scary thing to do, getting up and speaking in public. But if anyone can do it, anyone can do it if I can do it, because I was petrified. I had low self-esteem, no self-confidence, but it's about overcoming those obstacles and facing those fears.
It is absolutely facing those fears, and I now, as a hypnotherapist, help people get through phobias. But I had a couple of phobias myself, and one of those was fear of heights, and one of them was public speaking. And I went as far as to take up stand-up comedy purely on the basis to face those fears and make sure that it isn't a terrifying thing once you get comfortable. And it's weird, isn't it? The more you do it, the more addictive and actually fulfilling it becomes to actually speak to an audience.
I always say, even if your voice is shaking, your hands are shaking, you're sweating, still get up and share your message, because the more times you do it, your confidence grows. And like you mentioned, once you start doing it, you get such an adrenaline rush from getting up there and sharing your message. So your confidence grows over time.
And it's one of those things for anyone listening, really, that has some kind of a fear or concern about public speaking. Anyone that really gets to the top of a profession or a career ends up speaking to more people, whether that's politics, business, the legal profession. You end up speaking to bigger audiences because you become a bit of an expert in your field, in your area of expertise. What kind of topics, when you're on stage, Stephen, do you find yourself talking about?
I talk about self-leadership and transformation, which involves a little bit of my personal story of where I've come from to where I am now. But then I share tips and strategies of how to move forwards in business, how to collaborate better in businesses so that workers work better together and they achieve more in business, so they can achieve more in their personal lives, but also they can achieve more in business too. So it's very much self-leadership based, transformation, resilience, self-confidence, adversity. Those are the main topics I normally stick to.
And these are, topics that come up in every life. You don't have to be high flying business person. These are things that affect everyone. In your experiences of being a speaker, what would you say are the key psychological or emotional problems that become barriers into the progress and development of people's lives?
I think people are very scared of what other people will think of them, and it's that fear of getting up on the stage and having eyes on you for the first time. So it's definitely fear and self-confidence I find the most that holds people back.
Mm. And outside of just getting up there and doing it, what other tips would you offer someone that, whether it's a best man speech, whether it's a presentation to other people in their company, or whether it's a Dragon's Den style pitch, what kind of tips would you give someone to help them become more confident in that public speaking environment?
Firstly, I would ask them to have a look at their personal lives. So, little techniques like visualization, because if you think of an Olympic gold medalist, they visualize themselves winning before they enter that
Mm.
race. And I always say it's exactly the same with speaking. So, visualization, meditation, even eating right, I feel is really important. Being in a good health really has a massive impact. And I always say practice, practice, practice.
Mm.
Preparation is key. If you're practiced and prepared, you can't go wrong.
Mm. And just to share my background in terms of fear of public speaking, I used to be terrified, and at school, I'd get nervous in front of, doing a talk in front of three or four or five people, breathing faster and getting very nervous. But when I was 23 years old, the organizers of Young Enterprise, a kind of a charity initiative that encourages people to start businesses in schools and sixth form colleges, asked me to speak at the national finals. And I knew that I was terrified of speaking in front of five people, and there was going to be like 500 people there. And I said yes, purely on the basis that I thought, right, now or never, here's a good opportunity to do it. And the weird thing I found is that all the fear, all the adrenaline was in the run up to it. When I actually got to that podium and started speaking, which was straight after the chairman of the HSBC, and right before the rugby captain that had literally just won the Rugby World Cup for England. That's how far ago it was. The nerves went. There is something really powerful in just saying, "I'm going to do it, whatever happens." And then when you're there, it's almost like the action makes the fear disappear. Why do you think that is?
Well, it's normal to get nervous, and I think it's always about turning those nerves into a positive way to move forwards. Even I get nervous when I'm speaking, but it's about not letting those nerves taking over and just using them in a positive way so that you perform great on stage. And I just think it's a normal human thing to get nervous, but it's
Mm.
just about using those nerves in a positive way. And even if you just get up and deliver a 2 minute speech, if you've got a clear structure to that speech and you've practiced it and you're prepared, you will have that speech all in your mind, so you know where you're going with your presentation. So it's really important just to be prepared and practiced.
Mm. Absolutely. And I think also it's how you evaluate those kind of, because now when I speak on stage a bit and do stand-up comedy as a hobby, and when you see people beforehand pacing around and they're kind of, clearly a little bit nervous, and you say, "How are you feeling?" It's kind of like, "I'm excited." They're interpreting those physical sensations as excitement, whereas for someone that maybe has less experience, they're interpreting exactly the same physical sensations as, "I'm terrified," "I'm panicked," things like that. How important is our inner dialogue, do you think, to kind of getting the best out of our ability to speak on a stage?
I think it's really important to use your voice to share your story. I wanted to actually share a couple of techniques with
Mm.
you, Adam. I've got two techniques. My first one is called toe dipping. Now, when I first started speaking, I was petrified to get up and speak to an audience. So I would start by talking to just two people, before that I was practicing on my own, and then I would build up to a slightly bigger crowd, and over time that makes the fears get less and less. But my favourite technique of all is jumping in feet first. I think sometimes if you have got those nerves, it is holding you back. Just jump in and do it. If you make a mistake, no one will know. Just carry on with confidence and no one will know. And because you have faced that fear head on, every time you do it after that, the nerves do get less and less and less.
And surprisingly quickly as well. You know, what was a dramatic, terrifying experience can be, oh yeah, this is absolutely fine now. Pretty quick just by having that experience.
And once you have done it, you feel amazing. The endorphins are going all through your body. You feel on a high. It's like a natural drug. So definitely either toe dip and work baby steps into your end destination, or just jump in feet first and face those fears head on.
Absolutely. And the mind can play tricks. I remember when I was about 13 years old, just before I was doing a paper round in the morning, there was a radio station, and I called in that radio station to win a prize. And I was terrified. And I was terrified that I might say the wrong thing, do the wrong thing, something like that. And that's literally calling up a radio station. And it's kind of weird in a way that when you take yourself out of that comfort zone and do these things again and again, then it can actually open doors that you wouldn't expect. You mentioned in your introduction to how you found yourself in this area that you were a victim of bullying, and it got to a point where there was a life and death situation. I'm sure you share that experience when you're on stage. What was it that led up to such a severe life and death moment that enabled you to kind of get to your own personal crossroads?
So, due to being bullied at primary school and secondary school, it led to me having very low self-esteem and low self-confidence. And by the time I was 18 to 20, my life started to take a downward spiral, and I became addicted to crack cocaine and heroin. And that was a really dark time in my life. And by the age of 21, I went on a clubbing night out with friends, tried a new party drug, having the time of my life 1 minute, and the next minute I woke up in hospital. My chest was all shaven. I'd got bruises all up my arms where adrenaline had been pumped into me. I was resuscitated with shock pads. A few days after that, I did carry on drug taking, and I got kicked out of my home where I was living with my parents. I was 21 years old, and I moved away from all the associations, all the people that were dragging me down. It really is true. People either lift you up or they drag you down. But saying that, you can never blame someone else for your own responsibilities. I chose to take the drugs, so I'm never placing that responsibility onto somebody else. But it is important to look at your circle, who you're associating with. So I moved away from the area, and I slowly started to rebuild my life. I didn't go to a doctor. I just used the power of my mind, the power of thought, and I give up crack cocaine and heroin just by using the power of my mind, working on my personal development. And I always worked for top name leading hair salons. And by the age of 30, I left salons because I wasn't getting paid what I was worth, and set up in business for myself as a freelance hairstylist. I then moved to network marketing, and that was what led me into professional speaking, just by watching the speakers on stage. I'd got no skills in professional speaking. I'd got no skills in coaching, but I invested over £18,000 in top coaches, going to seminars. That's why it's really important to invest in your own personal development. Learn from people that are doing the things that you want to do. So I really feel if I can do it, anyone can get up there and share their message and use their story to build their business. Whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a coach, a small business owner, if you use your story and message and you serve other people, you can use your story to build a great business.
Absolutely. And what if, let's say, someone thought, actually, you know what, public speaking is something I've thought about doing, but a bit nervous about it. What if they feel that they don't have such a dramatic story like yours? Because, I mean, not everyone is a recovering drug addict that had that kind of near death experience. What if they feel that their story isn't kind of impressive enough or dramatic enough?
That's a great question, Adam. Everyone has got a story and everyone has got a message that will help someone. So never underestimate your own life and your own story. Yes, I've got a dramatic story to do with drug addiction. You may have a great story of how you've set up in business for yourself. You may have a great story about other things, about your childhood. There's many ways you can use your story. It doesn't have to be as dramatic. It's just about having a clear structure, and it's always about the takeaways in the speech. People love a story, but at the same time the audience want to know how you can help them. So what skills have you got? What message have you got that will really serve and help other people? And that is what you can incorporate into a speech with a great structure to help other people.
Absolutely. And as someone that was addicted to quite powerful drugs that kind of affect your psychology or thinking, what would be your advice to someone out there now that maybe has an addiction that is affecting the quality of their life or is getting in the way of them developing and progressing, to kind of steer them in the right direction?
I really love that question, Adam, and that's something really close to my heart. Firstly, any drug addiction, anyone suffering with bullying, any kind of addictions, it's really important to first admit to yourself that you've got a problem. I admitted I got a problem, and that was why I feel I've had success in moving forwards. Until you admit you've got a problem, you won't be able to move forward. So first, admit you've got a problem to yourself. Don't be scared to reach out and ask for help. Don't be scared to get guidance off other people. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Also, focusing on your mindset, even doing gratitudes and taking a journal on an evening, on a morning, listing all the things that you have got in your life right now to be grateful for. Even simple things like the air that you breathe, the food that you've eaten in that day. It's really important to start writing down morning and night and thinking of everything that you're grateful for. Also, visualizing the kind of future that you want to attract. Meditating for 10 minutes a day will drastically improve the way you think. And also watching what you eat, making sure you drink plenty of healthy natural mineral water, eating better foods, getting a little bit of daily exercise, getting it out of the house, even if it's for a 15-minute walk. I walk my dog for 15 to 20 minutes a day. That will get endorphins going around the body to make you start to feel better. Also, a little bit of getting enough sleep, but not sleeping in bed for too long. It's really important to get yourself out of bed even when you don't feel like it. But ask for help, admit you've got a problem. There's always light at the end of the tunnel, Adam.
And what's your take on these, you know, and it's been going on for a while, but almost like celebrities or people in the public eye will quite often have a period of time where they're addicted to whatever it might be, you know, and even now people are creating like new addictions like sex addiction and things like that. What's your take on if people get discovered, let's say taking drugs and things like that, that they check themselves into rehab, they're gone for 30 days. Do you think that that's kind of almost like masking, trying to pull the wool over the eyes of the general public, or do you think that that can be a helpful way for people to break through addictions?
I think everybody is different and everyone needs different help. I think rehab is great for certain situations. I think sometimes the rehab doesn't go on as long as it should do. I know some rehabs are only a couple of weeks and then they
Mm.
come out again, and then they come back out and the addiction's still there after a certain amount of time. I think if you are going into rehab, see it as a long term plan, and it's not going to be an easy journey.
Mm.
But I think it's so easy to judge other people, and if rehab is going to help celebrities, so be it.
Mm. Absolutely. In terms of um, the overall, let's say, trend, because with things like social media involving more video, anyone can have, let's say, a podcast these days. It's never been easier to get a message out there to a wider audience. Do you think there's still a place for stages, events where people, gather in rows and kind of watch someone, or is that becoming an outdated way of people connecting with each other?
Definitely not. And in my opinion, I think people should go out to more events. There's nothing like being in a room with people that you look up to, people that you admire, people that you can learn from. I think social media is such a brilliant tool to connect with the world. I've got friends all over the world. Um, there's never a better time to use social media. I always say you can share your message, be it on video, on social media, if you're just giving a conversation with someone. But also, I do think we need to go back to the old fashioned way of face to face a lot more. So,
Mm.
do use social media, but I think you can hide behind social media. I think it's really important to get out meeting people, because social media can be an addiction too, Adam. So, I think it's about using social media to help to grow your business and to connect with people, but also go out into the community, go to amazing events. There's nothing like being face to face with people that you admire.
Absolutely, it's you get that feedback loop. The kind of expressions on people's faces and kind of questions and things like that. In terms of the let's say the logistics of public speaking, let's say that someone has got the confidence, they have got that story, that message. How easy is it to find places and events to actually speak at?
I think firstly, get the skills, be prepared, because before you start approaching event organisers, you want to make sure you've got a clear structure to your speech. You want to make sure that you've got great takeaways, so you are actually offering guidance and help that will serve the audience.
Mm.
And you want to make sure you're really practiced and prepared. But once you feel ready, and you could even start just by blogging once a week on social media. That was how I started to get my message out there
Mm.
at first. Once you are ready, there's events more than ever. The world is such an open place. There's never a better time to go out and share your message. As long as you look professional, you've got a clear message, a clear structure, and you are going to be offering great tips, strategies to help people. There's so many networking events, so many small business events. There's events everywhere. The world is your oyster.
Absolutely, and whether it's Facebook or Eventbrite, there's lots of places to see events to network, and just by getting to know those people, anyone that you see speak, the organisers are going to need future people to kind of also speak at those events. So you're right there. I mean, there's plenty of opportunities there. In terms of let's say where people can get, let's say, coaching beyond, let's say, practice at a Toastmasters event or something like that. Let's say they were inspired by your story and thought you could be the one to help them become a public speaker or a professional speaker. Where can they find more information about you?
Firstly, they could go to my website, which is www.markstephenpooler.com, and they can just press yes, I want to move forwards. All my social media links are on my website, and I've also got an amazing Facebook community full of other aspiring and established speakers. So my website would be the first place to go because it's got all my social media links, all information on myself. So that's www.markstephenpooler.com. Also, I like to be connected with on Facebook or LinkedIn, which is just Mark Stephen Pooler.
Great, Mark. And let's, one final question. If someone was saying, why should I care about public speaking? You know, I'm not an extrovert, I don't have something to say. Give them one reason as to why. Why does public speaking matter?
Public speaking matters so that you can inspire and help other people who are not as fortunate as you are just yet. People who haven't got that self-belief in themselves. You can really use your story, your message to help and serve other people. But also, public speaking is not only just for getting up on a stage. You can use your story and your message in the workplace, even in a conversation. It's so important that you have a clear structure to how you present yourself, so you don't have to just be getting up on stage for presentation and public speaking skills.
Absolutely. It's a very transferable skill, gives you lots of confidence, and is addictive as well, in a good way. Mark Stephen Pooler, thank you so much for being a guest on my show today.
Thank you for having me, Adam. It's been an absolute pleasure.
And to you at home, thanks for joining me on Modern Mindset in association with Share Radio. Join me again next week for more.
That was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for watching. I'm going to turn this off now.